Let's go live to Vegas. Josh McDaniels on the podium.
And had a good conversation with the quarterbacks this morning. And so we're going to go ahead and start Jarrett the last couple games of the season here. You know, none of us is happy with where we're at, but we think it's an opportunity to you know, evaluate a younger player who hasn't had much time to play. You know, talking to Derek, who was great. You know, he understands the scenario that we're in and the situation, and very supportive of the two young guys. Those three guys obviously have worked together hand in hand all year, and you know, he'll do anything he can to help them. So, you know, that's what we're going to do. And obviously, we're you know, started into our preparation for what I think probably is the best, you know, football team top to bottom that we've played in San Francisco. So well coached, you know, extremely highly ranked in every category: offense, defense, special teams. I'd say probably playing as good as any team that we faced all year at the time that we're playing them, and I'm excited for the opportunity and looking forward to the challenge of this week.
Josh, we talked about the contract situation on Monday. Does that play into this? And then bigger question, what's the message in regards to Derek Carr moving forward with the Raiders?
Yeah, you know, like I said, it's more about the opportunity. Like I said, we're all accountable to where we're at, and I think this is more about an opportunity to see a guy that we haven't seen play in a situation like this against a couple good teams, really good teams. You know, Derek's played a lot of football. There's a lot of evaluating that's going to take place here once the season's over, in terms of how we make the most progress, what makes the most sense for everybody, and how we move forward. And we knew that was going to be the case. Obviously, we were hoping to be in a different scenario than we are currently. But there's no finality to today. This is just a decision we thought, after talking about it and contemplating it, that we thought, you know, would be an opportunity for us to see, you know, what we have in him, and how we do going forward. We'll see. You know what I mean? So I think there's a lot to be sorted through once the season's over.
So that just happened. Jarrett Stidham, guys, is starting not only Week 17, he is starting Week 18 as well. Derek Carr benched for the last 2 games of the season, where the Raiders still have a mathematical chance at the playoffs. It would be like a 20-team parlay over 2 weeks to try to get in. Vegas, we could say parlay, but it is highly, highly unlikely. Ian Rappaport, this comes after Derek Carr signed a massive extension to the offseason, but one that did not have a lot of guaranteed money.
Right. There's a contract decision that is coming for the Las Vegas Raiders, but that's going to come after the season. We'll have plenty of time to talk about what it would mean if they do decide to move forward with Derek Carr, the $40 million. And there's a lot of decisions that everyone has to make in the offseason regarding the quarterback position. Plenty of time for that. For now, what we know is this. The Raiders want to take a look at Jarrett Stidham, and obviously this is a staff that is very familiar with him. Both Josh McDaniels and Dave Ziegler, the general manager, came from New England, drafted Stidham there. I know they think pretty highly of him, so they will take a look at him, as they will from some other players at positions where they're taking over for veterans. Of course, Denzel Perryman headed to IR. Chandler Jones, I'm told, also going to be placed on IR with his elbow injury. You see more young people there. So it just doesn't make sense at this time to play Derek Carr. There's the business, there's the football, there's the want to take a look at younger players. A lot going on here for the Raiders, who, you know, do mathematically have a chance. But, of course, it seems very, very far-fetched that they will. You got to start thinking of next year. They need to know whether or not Stidham is in their plans, so they're going to play him.
Okay, this, honestly, you know, look, it would have to be a 6-way 8-9 tie for the Raiders to get in. It would have to be specific wins and losses by the other teams here. So, Bucky, they're not making the playoffs. So doesn't this kind of feel like a goodbye to Derek Carr, Bucky?
It does. It kind of feels like one of those CDs that I bought, EPMD, business, Never personal.
Strictly business?
This is business. This is all about the Raiders making a decision that, you know what, Derek Carr, we don't know if you're right for us. The last 4 games, Derek Carr is only completing 53% of his passes, 6 touchdowns, 7 interceptions. For a guy that was supposed to be a top 10 quarterback, that's not good enough. This team was supposed to compete at a high level. They went to the playoffs this season ago. Josh McDaniels was supposed to help this team get over the hump. You have 8 one-score losses. When you have an elite franchise quarterback, that quarterback is supposed to make some of those things right. Derek Carr hasn't played well, so now you have this $40 million decision on whether he's going to continue to be your quarterback going forward. Look, I think they're telling us without telling us they are in the quarterback market. They're looking at Jarrett Stidham, but Jarrett Stidham is just one of many quarterbacks that they may look at before they make a decision on Derek Carr.
Yeah, I mean,
You were there. You were there.
I mean, here's the thing. We're giving them all the cover that they need. Here's the deal. They're not taking a look at Jarrett Stidham. They know what Jarrett Stidham is. He's not going to be their long-term quarterback. This is the adios to Derek Carr. His contract is guaranteed for injury only, so by them not playing him the final 2 games, they are saying, okay, we're putting you in bubble wrap. You're not going to get hurt. So if we do make the decision to move on, which it seems like they will unless they don't have a better option, then he's gone. This is a team that's going to have continued turnover. Josh McDaniels has the blessing of Mark Davis of having time to fix what's gone wrong with this organization. Here's the other picture of this right now. The Raiders, they're sitting at number 8 in the draft order as of right now in 2023. By taking some of their veterans off the field, they can move up higher in the draft order. Some of these teams like the Falcons, who are still competitive and things like that, may win some games to move themselves behind the Raiders in the draft order. This could have long implications for them making a move like this now, besides just saying goodbye to Derek Carr. So it's a very interesting move. We all understand it, but we might as well just say what it is. I mean, buy Derek Carr, and let's get in the quarterback market after this. Ian, go ahead.
Yeah, one thing I would add to that is we did this with Jimmy Garoppolo and the San Francisco 49ers several times. They officially said goodbye to him. They put out everything was public, and then now he's injured now, but he was still their quarterback after working out on a rehab field. So
he got hurt. He got hurt. He had an injury they didn't know about. Do we know about injury with Derek? I was just there at the.
No, but to Ian's point, like we've seen crazy things. We have seen crazier things.
No. And look, if the Raiders are going to move on from Derek Carr, which, considering what has happened, it's obviously in the realm of possibility, they're going to have a better option. So who's their better option? Who is going to be quarterback for the Raiders? A lot of things we don't know. So when Josh McDaniels says things need to be sorted out, part of it is who actually is playing quarterback for the Raiders. I think that's a very real question. That's why we just don't know all the answers right now.
And that's a great point, Ian.
There's a quarterback that Josh McDaniels has worked with that's going to be a free agent that's currently trying to win the NFC South. There's a quarterback that Josh McDaniels has worked with that is now injured in San Francisco. We're throwing those out there as well. I mean, why not? But to your point about putting him in bubble wrap, Chase Garbers is going to be the number 2 quarterback this week, all right? The undrafted rookie out of Cal. So it's going to be Chase Garbers. So it won't be Derek Carr. He will be watching and inactive. Okay, Bucky?
No, I think the interesting thing is not only Derek Carr, but now we got to think about the ramifications with Devontae Adams came over to the Raiders to play with a guy that he considers one of his best friends in Derek Carr. How does that play in the locker room if Derek Carr is no longer there? I know they paid him and they brought him over as a lifelong dream, but when you think about some of those things and how some of those people may have come on board because they thought Derek Carr was going to be not only the franchise quarterback, but the leader of the team going forward, I just wonder how is Josh McDaniels going to handle all of these things that may take place in the locker room as he continues to try and rebuild the silver and black.
And Ian, I just want to come back to you real quick. Don't the Raiders have to make a decision within 5 days or a week after the playing of the Super Bowl on Derek Carr?
Yeah, that is when, remember that big extension that he signed before the season? Really, the guarantees on that kick in right after the Super Bowl, which actually is a really smart thing for all parties because if they are going to move on, if they're going to find a trade partner or maybe cut him, I guess that's certainly possible as well, then it's going to happen well in advance of the opening of free agency. If Derek Carr is released, let's say 5 days after the Super Bowl, he will be one of the top free agents, maybe the top free agent plus able to sign right away. So there's a lot going on here, more than just, well, the Raiders are playing Jarrett Stidham. That is
Well,
for sure.
yeah, and there's a Niners angle here as well. San Francisco's 11-4, currently the 3 seed here. It's the Niners and the Raiders Sunday in Vegas. If the Eagles were to face plant here, San Francisco can get to 13 wins and can get to 10-2 in the conference. So the seeding here in the NFC could very well be affected by this decision. Jarrett Stidham starting for the Raiders
And I'm
this week
saying,
and next. All right.
Bucky, the Raiders can be picking top 5. You're going to be busy doing your quarterback analysis for them.
Like I said, every day it's something new. This one, it's a quarterback change in